All right, so good to have you here. I see some more people join during the meditation. Welcome. I have been so grateful to have this opportunity to engage in this particular text. I think about His Holiness just sitting down with Jeffrey Hopkins and going through just the way to reach a Western mind. How do we bring these precious teachings of the Noble Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, to life for Westerners in ways that make sense, that are practical and meaningful, without skipping any of the essentials, not watering it down. Really thought it's incredibly skillful. And I'm just pulling this out. So if you are new, this is the text that we are using. It's How to Practice, The Guide to Meaningful Life by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama with Jeffrey Hopkins. And essentially, this is the text of the Four Noble Truths, and really emphasizing this path of awakening, this eightfold path, this Noble Eightfold Path. But with a Tibetan Buddhist Mahayana perspective, this opportunity to engage in this path of awakening with bodhicitta, with this incredible great compassion, the fuel with which we can achieve full Buddhahood. And this fuel is our concern for others, our recognition that they suffer as we do, and our heartfelt desire to eliminate that suffering, to be of ultimate help. So we've been going through these teachings, and we went through the first few truths, and we're in this Eightfold Path. We started with morality, and we might use the word ethics. So within the Noble Eightfold Path, the path of no more suffering, the path of liberation, it is broken down to three categories. And so we have the Eightfold Path. And so we've got right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood. And we have right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. And so in these categories, the first two, right view, right intention, that's the wisdom piece. The morality or the ethics would be the right speech, right action, right livelihood, our ethics, our morality. And then right effort, right concentration, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Hopefully I said that correctly the first time. Right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. That goes in the category of concentration. So we have wisdom, ethics, concentration. So His Holiness is presenting this in these three categories. They're called the three higher trainings. And we've engaged in the training of morality, of ethics. So we've been doing that for a while. Okay, so if you join us, we've kind of been working through this text, and every single day we have a practice that is in the community. So that's a practice that's done every day, and we have some additional resources. We check in, and so we've been engaged in this practice of cultivating the 10 virtuous or wholesome actions of body, speech, and mind, and avoiding the 10 non-virtuous, and bringing about our motivation of compassion, loving kindness, being helpful. And we've been working with this for a while now. So His Holiness has taken us to this part. And then he said, well, as we engage in this path, how can we be really helpful? So last week I talked about the three types of motivations one might engage in Dharma practice, Buddha Dharma practice. And of these, this is a Mahayana or Bodhisattva path, which would be this motivation to achieve complete Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. And we went into some of the distinctions between an Arhat and so forth, and a Buddha. And so the invitation was, well, maybe you're of this mindset to achieve full enlightenment, Buddhahood, for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so we've been unpacking what that motivation's like. And His Holiness now is going to invite us, those of us that are ready for such a step, to ripen and encourage and sustain a bodhicitta motivation, this motivation to benefit all sentient beings, to achieve full enlightenment on their behalf so we can truly help them. This great compassion. And so that's where we're at in this text. Now, we may not be at that mindset from your view. We might just be engaging in a path to remove some suffering, to understand Buddha Dharma a little bit better, and engaging in the path in that sense. And so entirely okay to have that opportunity to, find what is your path and your motivation, and see where we're at. And so no reason to pretend, I'm going to go for a bodhisattva path. If I'm not ready for that, we let things ripen and unfold. And I spent a great deal of time last week. So if you weren't here last week, I'd encourage taking a little time to watch that. We record them all. And just maybe nurture a path at where you're at, and the importance of testing teachings, to not just go with blind faith, to engage in them authentically in a way that ripens our mind. So I bring us here because we're at this point where this will be inviting this opportunity to nurture this Noble Eightfold Path through the lens of a Bodhisattva path, through an integrated practice that ripens our Bodhisattva path as we engage in the 3 higher trainings. Very skillfully done here. So just going to pause there, see if anyone has any questions. And if so, you can either raise your hand or you can type in a question. There's a little Q&A button. And just know that you can do that anytime. So I'm going to bring up the text now, show you where we're at. So His Holiness now is bringing us to this practical intention to become enlightened. So the path of a bodhisattva includes the 6 paramitas, sometimes called the 6 perfections. And so this is the path of bodhisattva, these 6. So we'll touch on each of these 6. There's a great deal to learn about all of them, but right here it gives a little synopsis just so we get a taste of these perfections. When your aspiration to become enlightened is firm, you should implement it in deeds. You should implement it in deeds. These are called bodhisattva deeds. The principal among them are the 6 perfections. So the first one's here, giving, which includes donating material such as money, clothing, food, the kind of generosity we're used to. Giving love, giving teachings of spiritual doctrines and practices, the teaching of the Dharma and practices, and giving relief from fearful situations to all beings, including animals. Help even an ant out of a puddle. Yeah, said watching Laura get an earwig out of the grill that was getting turned on the other day. Just had to chase it down. Really nice. So this is a pretty standard teaching that there's these 4 types of generosity, 4 types of giving. And so, donating like resources, giving our love. And there's a lot to what that means. Teachings, helping that sense. And then safety, right? Safety, to provide some safety from fearful situations, dangerous situations, protection. So first one's giving. it's nice that it starts here because this is one that we can all practice and we can dive right in. We don't need an incredible amount of spiritual understanding or really much to even money or resources to develop generosity. We can start giving love. We can start being kind to others in the sense of generosity of our time. We can offer some resources if we have them. We can start providing some protection and safe harbor for people. The second one is morality. So I'll use that interchangeably with ethics, morality, which refers mainly to altruistic attitude and behavior of bodhisattvas. So there's an unpacking of that, but in that morality again, there are certain attitudes that we have these things like the 10 virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind, so forth. We have additional bodhisattva vows that one would take. But at their very core, this altruistic attitude is to be of benefit. So that really needs to be key at my motivation right from the start. Different actions, I mean, we might say this is unwholesome or that's wholesome. But my motivation is going to have its largest impact. Why am I doing it? Am I doing it to be helpful and beneficial? And so having a mind with this altruistic motivation, something to unpack, to understand, and have a little more teaching on, we can actually do things that are quite ethical on the outside, but my motivation is not very pure, in which case it's not that much help. I could be donating to a cause, so I get my name, on a building, or get some recognition, or some transactional thing, versus just giving to be helpful. So my motivation is going to be critical, and so this altruistic attitude and behavior of bodhisattvas is always of the greatest concern. Patience. Patience is exhibited in stressful situations or used to sustain difficult endeavors, such as learning teachings and practicing over a long period. Another word that's often used here is forbearance, as there's an ability to sustain discomfort, sustain during discomfort, sustain a practice, to be able to endure pain or difficulty or just stressful situations, patience. And this is a skill that is incredibly important to develop in anything that we do. It's also the most go-to antidote within particularly our lineage to anger. We're not going to get very angry if we're patient, because we can experience some of that afflictive state of mind of anger, of irritation and annoyance, and have the patience to allow it to come and go without having to react to it. Patience is critical in anything, in that sense of anything we'd like to learn. Forbearance, the ability here to feel a pain, and it could be a mental or emotional pain, and to allow it to come and go. But it also has indicated here the patience to endure. I know I've sat at long teachings and I've been like trying not to fall asleep, or my knees hurt, and and I've come so far to hear this Dharma teaching, and then I'm almost like, is he gonna finish? And I'm like, why would I want him to finish? I just put all this effort to come to a Dharma teaching. And so having a mind that can freshen up and go, no, this is precious. And so patience to, engage in meaningful endeavors, also a part of this. And then effort, which maintains enthusiasm for virtue and assists all the other perfections. So it's often put as joyful effort. It's a joyful effort. And so often it starts as perseverance, much like patience can be. But a joyful effort, maintain an enthusiasm for virtue. And it's interesting that this can be achieved, not just, forcing my way through something. And there are sometimes that effort is required and incredibly valuable. But there's something to be able to shift my mind a little bit in a practice, to remind myself, what a value this is. This is the key that unlocks the door to liberation, to freedom. Sometimes I can forget all that. I have to do my practice instead. I get to unlock the door to the path of awakening and let these seeds ripen within me. Get the little shift there. And then the joyful effort, I think sometimes in my life where maybe I wanted to act out in a way that was tempting, and maybe it wasn't terrible or anything, but it was really, I know I would be, I'd feel better if I did this more productive activity, might be more helpful to others, but my mind's lazy and it wants to go do this other thing, or it wants to go even do an unhealthy thing. And there might be this pull, like I'm not getting to do this if I have to go do this. And a ripening of the mind that says, how good I'll feel about myself when I actually do the things I feel good about, integrity and honor and value. And rather than just have to go do the right thing, to take a moment and just sit with how you feel about having integrity and honor, about doing the right thing, and what a gift that is to yourself, as opposed to a thing, it's just, I know what I should do. And then there's a bit of joy in this. It says, not acting out in that way, not wasting my time in that way, not doing that other thing. I get to feel pretty good about doing this other more productive, beneficial activity. And it's not a burden anymore. It's a joyful effort. It's like, I get some integrity and honor here and value, and feel good about that. So there's lots of ways to work with joyful effort here. But it is what's required, as it's put here, that assists in all the other perfections. And so Holiness will put that into this context. Why else would we, get up early and do a practice before others get up and so forth? And because we recognize its value. So we want to sustain that enthusiasm. Concentration, which is the practice of stable and intense meditation, explained in the next chapter. So this whole next chapter we'll get into a mind of stability. We need a mind that's present, clear, healthy, and well. And then wisdom, which is necessary for understanding the nature of cyclic existence and impermanence, as well as dependent arising and emptiness. Those are all a lot of words that are basically to understand the nature of self and reality. And this is what opens the door. This is liberation. Wisdom is what liberates. Ignorance is what imprisons us. Misperception. Wisdom. This is what breaks that cycle of existence, which is nothing other than seeing things as they are. So all of Buddhism really is a path of truth, to understand what's true, to examine how I perceive things and how they actually exist, rather than the deceptive way people, places, things, and events appear. That's the path. The six perfections in turn can be condensed now into the three trainings of bodhisattvas. Tricky phrase here. He's going to talk about the 3 higher trainings, which is the Eightfold Path. But now it's not just an Eightfold Path. Now it becomes trainings of bodhisattvas, not just an arhat, not just to liberation, but of bodhisattvas, of complete enlightenment, full Buddhahood. Same 3 trainings, but now they're infused with these 6. The training in perfection of morality, the ethics. Well, that's going to include, of course, morality, but also giving and patience. So the first 3 would encompass now this training of morality, of ethics, which should also have the generosity, the ethics, the morality, and patience. So that would go in that higher training. And then the perfection of concentration and the perfection of wisdom. So those are the 3 higher trainings, right? Ethics, concentration, wisdom. And then he puts here that the perfection of effort is required to nurture and sustain all of them. So that's how the 6th perfection is incorporated. It's incorporated in all of them. It's required. We need the effort to have the ethics, the concentration, the wisdom. This is how the 6 perfections are included in the threefold practice of morality, concentrated meditation, and wisdom. That is the focus of this book. So again, we could be engaged in this path in a way that is, I want to achieve nirvana. I want to, be in a path of an arhat, or which would achieve this break from our prison of samsara. Or I can engage in this bodhisattva path for complete enlightenment, full Buddhahood, for the benefit of all sentient beings. And we're still going to have these same higher trainings, but there's going to be a different motivation infused with this bodhisattva path. These 6 perfections within the same 3 higher trainings. So, all right, so I'm going to pause there again, just see if anyone has any questions or comments. Hopefully this is fairly clear. I give a lot of numbers, so we get, the 3 of this, the 6 of that. Looking like we're so good so far. So again, if you ever do, you can type in a Q&A, or you can raise your hand. There's a little raise your hand button. So when you arrive at the feeling in the depths of your heart that you must engage in bodhisattva deeds, these being the 6 perfections, or seen another way, the threefold practice now of the bodhisattva, this is an appropriate time to take the bodhisattva vows of practical intention to become enlightened. These bodhisattva vows. In essence, all beings are united by the desire to gain happiness and avoid suffering. We are also the same in that it is possible to remove suffering and attain happiness, to which we all have an equal right. All of us, all beings. Then what is the difference between you and all others? You are a minority of one. It is easy to see that the vast number of sentient beings hoping for happiness and seeking an end to suffering are more important than any one person. It is therefore eminently reasonable for you to commit yourself to the welfare of innumerable others, to use your body, speech, and mind for their good, and to abandon an attitude of just taking care of yourself, which ultimately leads to more suffering. And so now he's going to offer these stages. Now, these are not the official vows, but this formal practice, which we've already gone through. But it's going to be these 7 limb practice, and with prostrations, with offerings, purification, just confession, rejoicing, which is admire, that's 4. And then our requests for the Buddhas to teach. And then our dedication. And then the opportunity to take our refuge prayer and cultivate our bodhicitta motivation. So we've already gone through this and have had it even within our daily practices. So with keeping a time constraint, just remind us that those we've done. And I did want to show you that they're incorporated in our prayer book. And so here is just going to take us through the steps of the 7 limbs, and then these recitations of refuge and my bodhicitta motivation. So we recite that 3 times. Now I'm just going to share real quick for those of you who maybe have not seen the daily, we have a prayer book that you can download, and either in booklet form or handout, and this is the handout. And we have a little different order. So if you were to download it, you're going to see this, our daily practice book, and nice advice from Lama Tsongkhapa, motivation in the morning by His Holiness, and then the morning practice where you again visualize the Buddha, the refuge tree. But the order is a little different. We have refuge and bodhicitta first, and then the 4 immeasurable attitudes, and then the 7 limb prayer, which is what he is breaking down in those 7 points. And so the order is a little bit different, but you'll see that it's incorporated just the same. All right, I'm going to pause there because somebody had a question. If not to Bodhisattva mindset, is it advised to continue with text or continue where you're at in the path? Good question. No, we can continue with the text. So this text is teaching us the 4 Noble Truths. And it's also valuable, I think, if you get a chance to watch last week's video, because I really offered some different ways of engaging in text from different ways of being on a path, including just the one that says, I'm interested in learning more about being a bodhisattva, and or I'm taking refuge in this path to investigate it, to learn more, so that we are planting seeds to ripen, and we still engage in this, because essentially this book is the path of no more suffering at either of these mindsets that we're at. So I want to offer different opportunities. So it's a very good question. I'm sure you're not the only one who was thinking it. Thank you. Yeah, let me just come back to the text here for a moment. So the 7 limbs, the refuge prayer, the bodhicitta motivation, and then he gives some tips here on how to strengthen your practice during these 4 practices. And I think we covered a bit of those already. Yeah, let me just be real clear. So we had the 7, we did our refuge. And then these, to maintain and strengthen this profound altruism in this life, perform the following. So this is just advice to really keep us focused, watering and nurturing our path in ways that are healthy and meaningful, and creating the merit and conditions to engage. Recall again and again the benefits of developing an intention to become enlightened for the sake of others. And this I can't emphasize enough. It's so easy to be inspired and then it's next Tuesday. And so my mind is used to dragging me from one desire, one intention to another. So really taking the time to bring to mind the thoughts that we want to dominate our lives, the what we put in our mind is meaningful. It becomes our reality. And just like the food we put in our body, what are we putting in our minds? And so taking some time to remember, a day that will never come again. That's why these four, we've got 4 thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma, but we also have these 4 attitudes, measurable attitudes of, that we can ripen our minds with. So recalling again and again, and not just a recitation, but really, the benefits of this. And then the practice that you talked about, dividing the day up, and then our practice of seeing others who are struggling, and then our own self-cherishing ego, and noticing that practice of our desire to help others. That's that 5-step process that we've covered. And then avoid mentally neglecting the welfare of even one being. And this is a practice, mentally neglecting the welfare of even one being. Sounds like a tall order. And so we always start where we're at. And like was pointed out earlier, my wife was helping an earwig. These are the things that if we can notice someone that needs a little attention, we give them some attention. Maybe take a phone call when I didn't want to take a phone call. So we want to start developing this one step at a time, one being at a time, and not worry about, I can't do this for everybody. Let's just start with the ones we can. And it's a thing that we practice like any other skill. We learn to walk by taking our first step and so forth. So likewise, we, how can we be helpful? As we nurture that attitude, we will become more natural at it, just more natural at it. And then as much as possible, engage in virtuous activity with a good attitude and develop a rough understanding of the nature of reality, which we'll unpack in here, or maintain a wish to do so and work at it. So the wisdom piece. And so every day, if you were doing our morning practice, you're going to be seeing these pieces incorporated. And then, of course, every day, engaging in virtuous activities, good attitude, loving kindness, compassion. That's what we talk about, to be helpful. So you'll be nurturing this. It'll be a way of life, a way of being. I think I saw a question pop up, so let me see what we got. In addition, if one were predisposed towards taking Bodhisattva vows, can you describe a little more about that process? Yes, well, as a matter of fact, since we have just a few minutes here, next week I'll talk a little bit about Bodhisattva vows. Yeah, let's do it then. So just thinking of the time here. And generally you take them from a Lama, and they're passed down. You recite after him these vows. But yeah, I think just due to time, a lot of people take them and have no idea they're taking them, by the way, or what they mean. As if you attend a lot of blessing ceremonies, they'll have you repeat after them a few times. And so, but His Holiness here is actually giving you a process of doing that. Because if we go back, and I'll share this, you're taking this vow right here in the refuge prayer. And I think that's what His Holiness is getting, his invitation here is. So I'm going to come back to through the positive potential I create by practicing generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, wisdom, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So this is this great aspiration, may I attain the Buddhahood for the benefit of all saints through these positive potential of practicing. And now these are the 6 perfections. meditate Buddha in order to benefit all sentience. So we're really taking this vow in a sense and bringing it to mind every day. It's not the same as taking formal Bodhisattva vows, but its essence acts in that way. And I think that's what His Holiness is getting to here. I think that's what he means. But I didn't ask him directly, so I don't know for sure. So I'm going to investigate that, and I'll have a better answer for you next week. But that is what we're doing here. We're taking refuge, and then we're cultivating water and nurturing our Bodhisattva motivation, this path. Okay. Oop. Any other questions here before I can maybe wrap up this section? Let me see where we're at. So there's some advice here to maintain and strengthen the practice. The first ones are in this lifetime, is even in future lifetimes, which I'll invite you to take a look at. I like this one: never cheat anyone and always remain honest. And may I become able to help all beings. So, these are pretty straightforward. Don't lie to anyone at all, unless you can help others greatly through lying. And there's a common story there. Somebody's trying to kill someone and you're kind of hiding that person. And so you might lie to save a life. Directly or indirectly help people to progress towards enlightenment. Treat all beings with respect, never cheat anyone, and always remain honest. So these are good ones to reflect on. And next week we'll get to practicing concentrated meditation. And I will touch base a little bit on the Bodhisattva vows so we can have a little more clarity on your question, Mike. So we want to just pause here and just see if there's anything that's come up for anyone at this point. All right, well, I like when things are clear. So again, we talk about these 3 scopes or motivations that we can engage in this path. And one of them could, just be, I'd like to have, a good rebirth. One of them, it could be that I want to be free of suffering, achieve nirvana. And one of them could be full Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So these 3 scopes or motivations. I think the beauty in all of them is that the opportunity to remove suffering right here, right now, is accessible in all 3. So the beauty of this is that I can engage in this path, investigating the nature of suffering and discover its causes and improve my life already, regardless of my motivation. And that I can, as I engage in this path, I can apply my analysis to whether or not it's really beneficial or not. And that's what the Buddha, main point has always been, you need to check it. You need to check the teachings. You need to see if they work for you. And then we get a faith if we find it does. And that faith is based on investigation and application, not on, His Holiness told me so, or it's in a book, or it's in this thing, or there's a charismatic teacher, or any of those things. I'm going to try this. I'm going to apply it. Is it reducing my mental and emotional suffering? As a matter of fact, in the 7-point mind training, you measure, there's how to measure mind training. And one of them is quite simply, are you happier? Are you happier? And so that's, Buddha Dharma is designed to remove suffering. So we want to investigate this, we want to apply it, and then we want to engage with it authentically as we can in ways that really make sense to us and allow us to water the seeds of this great compassion. And initially, it may seem like a big, daunting task. That's why I say, just let's take the next step here. And that makes sense to you. And things that once seemed so big, like, how can I possibly care for, every being? Let's just start with one, let's start being a little nicer to someone I don't like. It's really that process, and it unfolds. So, Mother Teresa would say, don't worry about numbers, just help the person in front of you, start there. And then things unfold, things that we couldn't imagine make sense to us in ways that we didn't know before. But we unpack and we engage and we bring a discerning mind to it. Test it. We'll dedicate the vast amount of merit we've already created here. Let us dedicate the merit and wisdom that we have accumulated here today and throughout our lives. Let us dedicate this for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and find their liberation. And may we be able to use the merit and wisdom we've accumulated here and throughout our lives to purify our own minds, to cultivate merit and wisdom in ways that are meaningful to our practice, to become fully enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. May we also dedicate the merit and wisdom accumulated here today and throughout our lives for a long life of all spiritual teachers of all spiritual traditions who are authentically teaching a path of no more suffering. May they live long, may their teachings flourish. And a special dedication for His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. May he live long, and may the seeds of his teachings flourish in all of our mind streams until we all find our way to awakening.